Right, so the end of the Gimel, just to repeat that, the two Taichin in Srafim Oimdim Imalai. He said that the first one was like a relative meaning of Oimdim Imalai, whereas the second Pirush is the true union of Mimalai. Namely, what is the loy? The loy is Adnai, Shem Adnai. So the Srafim are masik the chayis. So there's two asogas. There's the asoga and the pnimius that they're masik the chayis that is nimshach into them, which comes from Shem Adnai. And in that sense, by grasping it, they're mimal loy, even though it's in the same general category, but when you grasp something, you're the master of it. So in that sense, the Pasuk says, mimal loy, they're higher than him, then their chayas, since they understand it. In other words, if you understand something, you have a certain control. But then the shaiga is not from the hasaga of the direct market. The shaiga is the understanding and recognition that this is only a ha'od, it's only a Shem, it's only nimshach m'sevev kalamim. So then, the Taich now, Srafim Oimdim Mimal, Lo is Mamish Mimal, the Mimal now goes on Sevev. The Diak is the word Mimal. The first pshat, the word Mimal, is because they are Masig, they're Makar Achais, in that sense, they are the master of it. It's within them, they've grasped it, they've internalized it. The second Taich Mimal, Loi, the Loi remains the same. The Loi is the Makar, Shem Adnai. Yeah, yeah. He describes the Merkava, and he describes the Odom Sh'ala Merkava. That's the Esses Firas Atzilus. That's the Malak Kalam, or even Bria. So Mimal on both levels. The first Mimal is because they're Masik. The second is because they're Masik the Sherish of the Sherish. They're totally higher. True, the emissary. They're connected. They're truly connected to a place that is totally beyond their Makar Achayis.
So not because of Hasaga, because of Ratzin, that's what we said. Right?
It's a kind of Hasaga, it's appreciation, not the same kind of, it's as he said, the Yediyas Hashlila, more knowing what it's not rather than what it is.
Right.
So it's not the same kind of Hasaga. And that's why, he said, that's why it's made of the Shaiga. The Richuk, the first kind, when you understand something fully, then there's an excitement, but it's not Gewalt. The Gewalt is when you confront something that's totally beyond you. And you really appreciate how it's beyond you and your insignificance in the face of it. And the face is not an it, not an abstract it. It's your ultimate market. So that's Ma'ira, the Emes Shaiga, the Emes Gewalt.
The Shaiga was from the Ratzin. That's how they say that they're mimal,
yeah,
because they are where they're Ratzin.
Yeah, the Ratzin / Hasaga. It's one thing. They have an appreciation of this, yeah, and they want to be nichlal in it. They want to be connected to the source, to the emes, the source of their source. And because they desire to, so on some level they're there, and therefore, they stand far beyond their direct Makar Achayis. They're connected not just to the direct source, which is Ishtalshalos, they're connected to the Mailim Ishtalshalos. Sefer Kalam. Yeah, you're going to say something?
No, it's like a yearning. That's what's bringing this home.
The yearning, the desire for the emes.
Why do we need the first shot then anyways?
Because you also have to understand the Ishtalshalos. You have to understand the way you work, and you have to understand. In a way, there's a big chiddush in the first way. The big chiddush is that your makeup and the way you work with the seichel and midas, this goof is expression of alikus, of the Eibishter's desire to be manifest in Nesses Firas. That's a big chiddush in a way. That's previous. But the second is born says, yeah, true. The Eibishter decided to manifest himself and as a Svidus, but he himself, the he is Sefer Kalalmin. Some see this, Atmos. Right now, Sefer Kalalmin is far beyond. So he wants to be connected. It's not like not to the Eibishter's finite manifestations, but he wants to be absorbed within the Mokher, and from there project outwards. The emesis, it's not, if the Srafim have, the desire is the Ikka desire is total dissolvement and bittul into Sefer Kalalmin, because that's after all the Sherish and Mokher. Not that they're not negating the, as I just said, the truth of the likus of Mamala Kalalmin, but it's merely a ha'ara. They got a bigger appetite. Huh?
And they don't recognize that even beyond Sefer, there's Atmos.
I'm going to get to that now.
Like a relative scale.
When I finished, yeah. Next ice. עדיין צריך להבין, is ד' מה שהכוסו ביחס לשייגה. First of all, in this question, the P'chinas Aryeh Dafke. Why is it only Aryeh is only Pnei Aryeh, the face of a lion, is only one of the Malachim? So Lachoris applies to all of them. Sharikola, Omer, Le'el, Shaykh, Lakola, Savedis, Malachim. The Serafim Bechlal. This is Shaykh. So why is Dafke to the Pnei Aryeh? Leile P'chinas Aryeh Dafke would think that it's not associated Dafke with the Malachim, which are described as Pnei Aryeh. And now explain why it is Dafke. Achinyin hu. But the Indian is Dineksiv, so in the description of the Merkava, he says, Yecheskel describes Pnei Aryeh le'yuminu Pnei Shoyer ma'asmoil. That the Malachim, which he describes as having the face of the lion at the right, and Pnei Shoyer, the ox, on the left. Achille ben Yamin u'Smoil hu. And the difference between Yamin and Smoil is Sheyamin u'yin Agilur. Yamin, right means revelation. Smoil yin Tzimtzum, withholding. Tzimtzum. Therefore, and we see the difference manifested in the physical lion and the ox. The lion, of course, is the Melech HaChayis, and the Shoyer is the Melech of Behemoth. As he goes on to say, this is the difference between Chayis, wild animals, and the Behemoths, and yeah, it was cattle. Shari Ari hu melech shebachayis v'sher melech shebehemoths. The Gemara says, one is the king of the wild animals, and the other of the behemoths. Chayis and bechenes yispilus v'chmimus yosem behemoths. We see that the Chayis exhibit a spilus, an excitement and a warmth more than behemoths. Shebehemoths and bekariros, behemoths are more docile, they're cold. V'chayis and bechmimus. And the Chayis are very energetic. Because that's Yamin, that's Gilui, because there's an intense Chayis there. The intensity comes because the Chayis is revealed there. The Shoytake, his power is great, his strength is great. There's many yields in the power of an ox. An ox can force many crops. A person harnesses the ox to the yoke, so he yields much greater crop than if he do it himself. Or another quote, that's a pasuk in Mishlei, Kishoy la'oil, in Avodah Zarah, that the ox is for the yoke. So it's a tremendous prayer there. You don't see it manifested. He brings these psukim to bring out that you have to harness it and engage it. But leaving the ox on his own, unless agitated, he sits there, stands there, virtually stationary and eats. Whereas the lion and the chayis are in a state of movement. They're predators. So there's difference in their natures. That since the shayr comes from Gvura, therefore there's concealment, there's great strength, as we all know, right? That is even deeper than to contain yourself takes more energy than to express yourself, but it's concealed. When you contain yourself, you're concealing yourself. But the adiyum, so the ox is tremendous, stronger than the lion, but it's not manifest. But the adiyum, the adiyus from the right, because that's giloi, and therefore shmezen nimshach takberes achayis. That's why he has this intense life and energy. Now this is the shaila. Arya is the same gematria as Gevura, but just saying now that it's singing of Chesed, of Yamin. It would appear not understood, but just finished saying and describing how he shayches to the Inyan of Yamin. So why is it the gematria of Gevura, Arya? Here, Gevura, we mean the intensity of the energy. Because of the gilo oyer, and therefore it's very intense. So that's what Gevura is meant in this context, in connection with the Arya. So you have an interesting thing coming up here. This will explain also. So the shayr is a kosher behema, and then Arya is not kosher to consume. Tلכו in a movement, it would appear not understood. So we're saying that the Arya is higher, is Yamin. Higher than the Pnei Shoy, which is the left. So if a Shoy, which is Chayis, is very limited and concealed, nonetheless it's Toher that you may consume. The Arya, a lion, Shechayusa, page 24, Begiloi, so surely the lion should be Toher. They understand this, but the answer is that Dafka, this is Takawai is not Toher, because it's Begiloi, namely. Explains, it's a Begiloi, but the Pnei and Eliyamin, because of the great revelation, the great power, the Chayis that comes from the right, which is responsible for and invested in the Arya. It can't be contained in Kalim. So it comes in a Derech Shvira. And therefore he's Tomei. This might explain also. He's a predator, not known for its chesed. But Shadish is chesed. That it is taka big gilui, but there's no keli. So when it shatters, it gets all distorted. Like since in Toyo there's tremendous light, and the skabla became tremendous gilui, so the gvul, the kelium, could not contain it. And that's why the shattering of the vessels.
No animals sherish in Toyo, even ox. All animals is sherish in Toyo.
Yeah, but filtered through Atzilus. This is direct.
The muscle kind of thing. Toyo is just a muscle. It's not saying Arya is from Toyo.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
What do you mean?
But he's asking, it is all Gashmis comes from all Gashmis does have the Itzutzik Dusha that fell from Beilam HaToyo. So it's a question of what dominates, and comes directly or through Ishtalshalus. Ishtalshalus b'derech Islapshus is Ishtalshalus b'derech Maiver. All these are different defining. Okay, so there is a move and gambling in Arya v'Shoy. So likewise, like Toyo is also the same union of Arya and Shoy. The Arya shechayusim b'chinas yamin. So he sits his chayis as the yamin shehur dibi oir v'chayis. It's tremendous oir v'chayis. In a goof, the goof is not a keli. There's tremendous energy. Therefore, it's a goof tome because the chayis doesn't integrate in the primistic way. The body, physical body of the lion is very far from the tremendous energy that's there. Therefore, it doesn't come down in the primistic way. The goof remains outside a goof tome. The Shviras HaKelim, Baruch Elokim Barachefes Apnei Hamayim. So Barachefes is Reish Peches Meis. That the sparks fall into a dead place, Tomei. Hashenkin Shoy Shechayuse Betzimtzum Adrab. So therefore, since the Shoy the Chayis does not come in this unadulterated, tremendous force, it comes contained in Betzimtzum. So Hine Aguf Shoy Rokein Lechayuse. Therefore, and his guf is a keli. So the guf can be irradiated, as it were, by the chayis. And the guf, therefore, is a guf, l'cheinu guf toher. And therefore, his behavior is also such, docile and not a predator, unless agitated. It's brought down in the Svarim, not in Chassidus, but in the Mefarshim on Torah. We see that the body of the predator and the body of the kosher animal, we see how the kosher animal is all docile and in its whole makeup. First of all, it has hoofs and split. Now, the split hoof is to facilitate standing for a long time in one position. Anybody knows engineering? That's why you divide at the bottom so you distribute the weight rather than all coming together at one point. The weight's distributed. The predators, they don't have hoofs because they need to be an instant charge and be very mobile to attack their prey, to snare their prey. And also, of course, the other siman is the digestive process. That the kosher animal, before he ingests it, it's a whole process of refinement. Another bitter goes down, comes up, and he chews its cud. Whereas, and he has that luxury. Doesn't have to have the energy right away because he's not expending such energy. But the predator needs to be able to digest immediately because he has to be on the run again to find his prey. And other things. So Bagashmi is, I'm saying that the shoyer, the behemoths tahidas exhibit all of this more refined and not aggressive behavior. That's because the guf matches the chayis. Hashenkein, the aryeh and the others, the guf and the chayis are not matched. The chayis is much greater than the guf, and therefore it's wild. I'm sorry, this goes into the So this is why also the Aryeh is a Torah, the snatches his prey and tears it apart. Omnam, Tahir means you get this violent, aggressive nature. Omnam, Pi Omor, but in light of the question now, I think. He's going to qualify it. What he just said now. Pi Omor, Nimtza, in light of the above, it comes out. So why is the Aryeh aggressive? It's at the guf. He's not a keli for the you have to say, interestingly, differently. It's also because of the oir, this Torah v'doros, with more explanation later. But he says now, because the keli is a reflection of the oir. Usually we think of it in terms of the opposite, that the kelim of Tohu were not yet incompatible. He's saying it's a compatibility. Why? The reason Shakelim in Ba'atim, why are the Kelim Ba'atim in Torah? Because they recognize the Gewalt of the Bligvul. So they're humbled, as it were, in his presence. The Fisheris in Merubim, because the Eidus in Merubim is not, they used to put together two things: small Kelim and big Eid and an explosion. It's a natural state. In the state where the Eid is great, the Keli is bottle, Keli is small. Allah I have to say, therefore, it's a very deep Nakud, and it doesn't bring any even footnote to see where this is talked about elsewhere. This could be Pashat Akvaldik Yechidush here. That the Keli is the Keli in Torah because of the Eid, not despite the Eid. Whatever's in the kelim, it's a response to the Eid. So therefore, me'enze is also in the a similar properties in the Eid, the revelation itself. So he concludes therefore, that this property of aggression and aggression means to others. This is also a property of the Eid V'Chayis, which should be explained a little bit further, which he starts now. So this is also the pasuk says. It's a pasuk in Iyov, and it's a rhetorical question. Im yiga shoyer al beliloi b'tmiyah. If the shoyer has his food in front of him, his grain. Beliloi means his grain. His father, will he call out for? He needs something. He's satisfied. Pasuk is contrasting to the human being. He has what he needs, it's still not enough. But the shoyer, if the shoyer has his father, he doesn't it's only if he doesn't have his allotted food. That's the ox. Now, what does he say about the Ari? Same thing. No, the opposite. Why is the opposite? Ayishag Ari B'yar, will the lion roar in the forest, the teref einloi, and he doesn't have his food? He won't. When does he roar? When he has it. So when does he roar is when he has his prey. So what does this mean by Ruchnius? The Pnimius, very beautiful. So what are we saying? That Shoyd is the union of Smoil and B'chinas Shuv. That's the union of what? Of Shuv. Shuv means, as opposed to Rotzoi, Shuv means when the Eir integrates into the Keli. So he's satisfied with the Giloi Eir, he receives it and integrates it. It slates his thirst. Again, this is these bonus, and therefore he settled. If he doesn't have the hasoga, which he could have, then is a state of concealment. Then he calls out, he needs. But when his needs are met, it's bisyashvus. Why is that? Because that's his whole teva. The teva is his yashvus, simtzum, and oir, which is tailored to the keli, and it's filled. The keli is filled and satisfied. But the Pnei Aryeh in the right side, that thing of Rotzoi, of longing, of desire. He's not satisfied with the Giloi, recognizing whatever Giloi he experiences is beyond and beyond. He's looking upwards, not downwards, or itself. The greater the revelation, as it pearls, even a greater desire for connection there. Haino, what does it mean? The greater the Giloi, the more that Saga, the more he appreciates that all of this is only a ha'order, and the more he appreciates that flow of Sevav Kalam. That Adrabah, because of the great Giloi, the great understanding of Malak Almin, this is pearl in him. Because his bonus is, it's wondrous, it's beautiful, it's a Malak Almin is, and this is only a ha'order. Esesfiris and the Gival, again, not the word Gival, but the greatness of the Esesfiris, and he understands it. And this is only Hashem and our order. So the Gewalt is intensified of the appreciation of the Bligmo. And that's why he has what? The Gewalt. So that's why when he has his praise, that's when he calls out. Is the more he has, the more the Gewalt, the recognition of the Reichkeit and the Afla and the wonder of Bligvo. Right? So we say the word infinite. It's a word. The more we appreciate the vastness and the complexity of finite and what that could mean, then infinite assumes a whole new appreciation. So Dafke, the Hasoga, pales by him the Shaige. Now we're going to explain, so why is he this aggressive? It's not the Oyer, it's not the Pneumius, the mile of the Torah of Adonis, that he's on the attack all the time. Answer. This is the Pneumius. The Aryeh is Torah of Adonis, tearing and snatching and tearing, ripping apart. Shinyoni B'Kedusha, what does this mean in Kedusha? This is the Shadish of it. Kasvi's Gabra Salamanagid is a warrior. He's angry and he wants to defeat the enemy. That's the Pneumius of it. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's on the right side. Because, simple reason, because Netzach is expressive. It's very expressive. It's not holding back. It's letting everything go. For the victory, you give it all you got. It's complete Gilur. Yeah, this is the Inyan here. Like we see in Havayeh, like this. The person who's Havayeh is B'siyashvos B'chinashuv. Return. It's a B'chinas Malak Almin. So his whole Havayeh is Hasoga, Hasogas, understanding, Abbas Hashem, and so on. It's primarily intellectual. We're talking Kedusha. Seichel the Kedusha, learning, understanding. So he's not so affected. That out there is the existence of that which opposes godliness. He's satiated, he's satisfied, and life is good. As long as he doesn't have a menaged against his avodah, like I said before, and the shirt isn't fed, so then he calls out. So if he doesn't understand something, so okay, he's got to defeat that, as it were, and grasp it, learn, understand. Then all is good, all is quiet. The Klolos, and is not being disparate of this person. Nice to Klolos Havedos b'derech achno bittul, and he's docile, and achno bittul kishoy la'oyer, like the ox, the yoke. So he's a good boy. Learns and davens, and does what he has to do. Keeps himself fed. Hashem kimi shavedos he be slavos. But then there's what? There's Havayeh, there's Bislahavos with Slahavos, no. The root is the word lav, flame, flaming. Pchinas rotzoi, a flame which seeks to tear itself from the wick. Rotzoi, longing. It's a pchinas hasevev kalalmin. He's not about amassing information, but he's a union of longing. He wants to connect to the pnimis of Elikus. So such a yid is a whole different attitude to the world. So when there's something in the world that opposes Elikus, Yiddishkeit, in the Yochel Lisbil Zois, cannot bear it. And he peils to mevatel menagid. Why? Because this is consistent in Yiddish. There shouldn't be an opposition. This is consistent with his own avodah. His own avodah isn't about filling himself. It's about his own bittul, his own surrender to Likus, Gewalt and Eibishter. And so, because he's pointing that way to the Eibishter, something opposing the Eibishter is can't design. The Eibishter wants something and it's not happening. Against the Eibishter's Ratzon. If you're looking this way down, Bittul, Yitzhak, he's learning. He's doing what he has to do. So somebody else isn't doing, no. Task. But it's not going to move him to make a revolution. But Dafka, the one who's the whole Avodah is, what? Welt is bottled by Mitzias. The only reality is the Eibishter, save of Kalalmin. And here's the aspect of the world that is opposing the Eibishter. This truth. It's the greatest insult to God. Can't bear it. The Eibishter, the cover, the glory of the king is so affronted. And that's the meaning, Kumayazev, it is about the wolf. Binyamin Zev Yitrov. Yaakov compared Binyamin to a wolf. So Rashi brings that from the Medrash. Shetorev milafon of malachar of the wolf. He snatches his prey from behind him or in front of him. He's totally, no matter where the prey is, he will sense it and he will go after it. So the Pnimius, he's saying here, it means, how do you clarify that whether it's the fun of the malachar, I'm not sure what Baruch is, what that would mean, in front or behind. At any rate, it means with Pnimius, he has the koyach to transform from being in opposition to Likus, until he transforms into Kedusha. So this is Avodah Tshuva. That Tshuva transforms even the Menagid, even the Zdoinus. And that's the Avodah about Tshuva, is the Tzamel Chanavshi Versi Oiv B'limoyim. The high level of Tshuva. The low level of Tshuva is the low. He comes to realize he's going to burn in hell. He doesn't want to burn in hell. He wants Gan Eden. So that's about him. The high level of Tshuva is, how can I have done this to you? It's about the Eibishter, not about his own madregas. So that high level of Tshuva is actually transformed as Deinis to Zachias. And that's the Torah of the fun of Malachrav. I'm just thinking that maybe the fun of Malachrav means behind him means things that he did. The fun of, like it says in time about the Benyan is such a massive that we see him now, such a resolve that in the future, no matter what he would face, he would resist. I don't know, I'm just suggesting. What it means with the fun of Malachrav in Havayeh. Akoponim, what's the conclusion? So in the whole beard of the Aryeh, so on the one hand, what? Well, that's what's our summary of the Aryeh. The Yishak is dafka from what? Why? the Arya Yishag, the emes is Strafim, and the Mimalai, that's why it's only the Arya, not the Shaila was all the Malachim Lachayr, there should be Shaykhs to. The answer is not. It's only the Malachim of Pnei Yamin, because by them is Gilui, because they have a profound Havana Vasog, Mimalak Alalmin, Adrab, that's Ma'ir, the desire and the longing for the Shayrish of the Shayrish, recognizing this is all a Ha'ara, notwithstanding its grandeur. So here's the Gewalt, the desire to be Nichlal in the emes of Alikus. And that explains the Pnimius, the Torah V'Doides. This aggression is, but Pnimius is a very gewaltige, kedushadik aggression. Intolerance of opposition to Likus. How could the Eibishter's desire be, the Eibishter's presence be denied and his will not carried out? Intolerance. That's the Pnimius of it. That's the Kedusha. Wait, you're going so far. All right, so that is, as we're saying, Havayeh about children. Clear so far, basically.